Right now, as you're watching this, American warplanes are hitting Iran harder than ever. President Trump just declared the ceasefire is over and the regime is in a full-blown panic. What happened in the last 24 hours is one of the most strategically significant moments of this entire conflict. What Trump just did isn't just a military strike. It's the execution of a strategy that was hidden inside the peace deal the whole time. As it turns out, the peace deal was a trap, and Iran just walked right into it. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, if you care about what your kids are walking into tomorrow, you've got to get my Patriot Alerts now. The people running this system aren't thinking about your children. I am. Patriot Alerts show you every threat to faith, family, and freedom before it hits your home. Click the link in the description below, and in 60 seconds, you'll be signed up and one step ahead. Yesterday, July 7th, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps started attacking commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Not just one ship, multiple ships. A Qatari LNG tanker named Al Rakayat caught fire after being struck by Iranian missiles off the coast of Oman. Then a Saudi-owned tanker, then a UAE-flagged vessel. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, all hit. Now, the reason the Iranian regime is giving for these attacks is that they're claiming that all ships must use a particular route through the Strait of Hormuz, and they can only use that route if they first get Iran's permission to do so. Now, the Americans said, of course, that's nonsense. The strait is completely open. Use whatever route you want. And so, when a Qatari tanker used the U.S.-approved Oman corridor instead of Iran's designated route, the IRGC opened fire. Now, if the IRGC thought that the ceasefire gave them leverage, if they thought that hitting a few ships was business as usual, a little intimidation, a little saber rattling, just to pretend they still have the ability to project power in the region, and that negotiations would continue unscathed, if that's what they thought, they found themselves in for a very rude awakening. Their miscalculation just backfired big time. The American response was not proportionate. It was absolute punishment. CENTCOM announced strikes in over 80 targets in Iran, 4 to 5 times larger in scope and power than any previous retaliatory strike during the ceasefire period. U.S. forces hit Iranian air defense systems, command and control networks, coastal radar sites, anti-ship missile capabilities, and more than 60 IRGC small boats in and near the Strait of Hormuz. Those are the fast boats, the swarm fleet, the ones that were already degraded back in March. Trump just finished the job. It was an absolutely massive attack. Qasem Island, Bandar Abbas, Sirik, all hit, all struck, all incapacitated. And then Trump did something the media is almost completely ignoring. He revoked the oil sanctions waiver. The temporary license that allowed Iran to sell oil on the global market, granted as part of the MOU, was canceled. The economic lifeline Iran thought it had won in the peace deal literally disappeared in a single afternoon. And then President Trump at the NATO summit in Ankara said the words the regime feared the most.
Is the ceasefire over? Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars. We make a deal. And if I make a deal with him, we have a deal. And he goes out, he talks. We make a deal. Everyone's agreed. No nuclear weapon. We make a deal. They go outside, talk to the press. They say, we never even talked about it. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
Well, the cuckoos are finding out that the combination of military and monetary might are enough to completely collapse a country. And that's exactly what's happening as we speak. What I want to show you is how analysts are beginning to finally realize, to their amazement, that this peace deal, this MOU, was always a trap. A trap not for the United States, a trap for Iran. And Iran just unwittingly walked straight into it, and what they sprung changes everything. I know you keep telling yourself at some point in the future you're going to buy and store away a few dozen gallons of water just in case an emergency hits your family and the water shuts off. We've all experienced it. The storm hits, the faucet stops working, and we're left wondering how long it's going to be before we have drinking water again. Every time it happens, we kick ourselves for not being more prepared. Well, here's an easy step that you can take that costs less than a dinner out. It's called the Pure Water Straw, and it can clean an entire year of water for you. It's absolutely amazing. It's the perfect emergency tool for making sure your family always has clean water through a disaster. So I got a little bit of some dirty water here, as it were. And what you do is you just take it out and you take the top off. And then what you can do is you can drink from any water source, no matter how dirty. Check this out. I'm kidding. I kid you not. It tastes just like water. This is coffee, obviously. I don't taste the coffee. It's just water. I mean, this is amazing. The Pure Water Straw allows you to drink from literally any water source, from the pond, from the mud puddle, the bucket that caught the rainwater, even, I kid you not, even the toilet. The Pure Water Straw instantly cleans out bacteria, pathogens, and debris and purifies the water. So you can drink clean water from any source without worrying about puking your guts out. We have these in our home. We got them in our cars. We've got them in our go bags. Or emergency responders actually recommend having one of these on hand for every member of your household. They store well in their sealed bag. It's a tool your family will be able to count on for years to come. Now, if a takeout meal is more important than a year of clean water for your family, well, then obviously the Pure Water Straw isn't for you. But if you know how important clean water is and understand how quickly a disaster can change everything, then getting a few of these Pure Water Straws is a no-brainer. It's the most logical next step, both for your peace of mind, but also from an investment price standpoint, because normally these are $45 each, but today the makers, Sierra Madre, need to make some space in their Wisconsin warehouse, and so they're marking these guys down over 60% with free shipping to boot. Click the link in the description below and grab yours today so your family's ready for the next crisis or disaster. You won't regret it. Click on that link below right now. Now, I want to make sure you understand what's going on here. This has been part of our analysis from the very beginning of the ceasefire, and once again, I find the analysis of Zineb Rabua, a Middle East geostrategist at the Hudson Institute, very helpful here. Right after the MOU was signed back in June, here's what she tweeted out, quote, "I'm 100% skeptical of peace deals when it comes to the IRGC and regard them more as stops along the way where the U.S. buys time either to build up its military presence or to give the energy market room to breathe." I would say both, by the way. "Happened before, will happen again." Now, that's not cynicism. That's pattern recognition. And what happened this week proved Zineb Rabua was exactly right. The critical thing to understand here, the thing that separates informed analysis from the noise, is that what happened over the last 24 hours was always the plan. The ceasefire was not surrender. As much as Rachel Maddow wanted her dwindling audience to believe that, the ceasefire was not surrender. It was a reload. While Iran thought it was winning breathing room through the MOU, probably because they were listening to our legacy media, the U.S. was repositioning military assets in the Gulf. U.S. forces quietly surged a third carrier strike group into the Gulf. They deployed additional Marine expeditionary forces and began pre-positioning for the next phase. Because Washington never intended the ceasefire to be the end of the story. Meanwhile, the energy markets were given the chance to stabilize after months of Hormuz disruption and uncertainty. And that's what this all ultimately comes down to. Again, we've talked about it repeatedly now over the last several weeks. This all comes down to permanently removing the sole, single, solitary trump card that Iran has been playing for 47 years. The mere threat of closing down the Strait of Hormuz was enough to send oil prices soaring and fears of 70s-style stagflation engulfing the whole of the Western world. Iran has been using the strait as their sole source of leverage to get whatever they wanted from a world that feared $200 a barrel oil prices that would cause economic upheavals the West hasn't experienced in a century. If that Hormuz trump card could be fully and finally eliminated, the Iranian regime is finished, at least at a geopolitical level. And if they aren't effective geopolitically, they won't be considered legitimate domestically. So how do you eliminate that threat? By making the closure of Hormuz the occasion for the regime's own demise. I'll say that again. By making the closure of Hormuz the occasion for the regime's own demise. The more Iran threatens Hormuz, the more they themselves bear the military and monetary costs. And the only way U.S. forces could exercise that much power and control is if they first rendered Iran militarily inert, which is exactly what they did in the first few weeks of this war starting on February 28th. What Trump is doing here is he's demonstrating that Iran no longer has control over Hormuz. He is demonstrating that to the entire world. They may think they do, but whenever they act on those impulses, they immediately find out that the military and monetary consequences on them are dire. Consequences that promise the eventual end of the Iranian regime. And once the Iranian regime is finished, Beijing's tacit control over Hormuz is comparably finished. Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, are finished. Russian influence in the region, especially with Assad gone in Syria, is finished. This is geopolitics playing out at the highest level, and Iran simply doesn't know what's hitting them right now. And if you could believe it, it's only getting worse for them. It's not just ships. The internal fractures inside the regime are accelerating. There were reports that Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, he was literally chased down the street by RGC hardliners this week. Men who view him and the parliamentary negotiators as traitors for pursuing talks with America. The regime is eating itself. Remember, there is not a single regime, technically speaking. There are factions. And the military faction doesn't want peace. The diplomatic faction is terrified of war, and Trump is maximizing that split by turning up the military and monetary pressure every time the hardliners pull the trigger in the strait. When all is said and done, the regime is weaker than it can admit. They have miscalculated at literally every front, and those miscalculations have left them reeling with no good options. And now they have lost their capacity to close the Strait of Hormuz. That capability is gone. Their fast boat swarm fleet, which was the primary delivery mechanism, is now below the minimum threshold needed to execute that doctrine. Their mine stockpile is 90% destroyed. Their drone factories are rubble. And now Trump just sank 60 more of their boats in a single night. They're not fighting from strength. They're fighting from desperation. So here's the bottom line. What you're watching is not a chaotic, reactive president stumbling through a Middle East crisis. What you're watching is a deliberate strategy. Degrade, pause, let them breathe, watch what they do with the breathing room while we restock, and then when they show you who they are, as the IRGC always shows us, remove another layer of capability. Rinse and repeat. Until the regime is finally done. That's the strategy. As it turns out, the peace deal was indeed a trap. Not for America, for Iran. The trap was just sprung. And for the regime, there is no way out. Before you go, don't let the mainstream control your weekend mood. Every Friday, I put together a weekly wrap-up with real wins, real momentum, and proof that Patriots are actually winning in 2026. No spin, no doom script, just the truth about what God's doing through faith, family, and freedom. Click the link below to get this week's wrap-up free and start your weekend encouraged, not demoralized.